Welcome along to Crunching Gears, Season 3, Episode 2, Part 2 of my conversation with Daniel McKenna. I'd like to start off this episode by thanking everyone very much. I'm overwhelmed by the number of downloads and views on our first part of the interview with Daniel. That's been mind-blowing. So once again, thank you all very, very much. In this episode, Daniel and myself, we look back at his time in the British Rally Championship, competing in an R2 Fiesta, and then onto a DS3 R3 Citroen. There's some fascinating stories mixed in there. And then going on then to compete in the Junior World Rally Championship, also in the DS3. His time in Monte Carlo, it's a story that you just have to hear. And then after that, getting a bit fed up with rallying and sort of moving away from competing, but going over then and working with M Sport. And there's some wonderful tales there to be told. And then as we start to wrap up the story, some exciting news. So if you like this episode, can you please like and share across all social media platforms? And if you could subscribe to the channel, it's gratefully appreciated. So sit back once again and enjoy.
Car, because that day and that hour and those minutes I got the bit between my teeth. You know, I really stood up and was counted and said, this is not getting away. I remember when we pulled on our helmets and Donald says to me, what are we doing? I said, we're going for gold, Barrett.
The first thing was I had no navigator, so I contacted Arthur. But Arthur, I think, was at the time he was driving still. He was sitting with Young Britain in the Irish Fiesta Championship. He says, I haven't got time to commit to it. I can't do it, Daniel. I'm sorry. He suggested then Conor Foley, so I rang Conor. And Conor, I think maybe was he starting to sit along with Donna then. He'd already committed to Donna to do the championship or whatever. He couldn't do it. Stephen Hagen then. Stephen had Stephen navigated for me at that stage. Me and Stephen were doing night navigations at the same time all the time. So I asked Stephen he do it, and I know for some reason he couldn't do it either. So I was really stumped. Like coming around Christmas time, had no navigator. I was trying to get the whole co-drive for me thing off the ground to try and raise the money. And the only thing I had in my back pocket was the first round of the BRC wasn't until April that year. For some reason, they changed around the calendar and there's a gap for the first season. I still had to get a car and everything organised. Like so this is when I sort of say you nearly had to be semi-professional, like, you know, because I was lucky that I was working for my father because he gave me the time to go and do these things. But anyways, I ended up having to start going around. I went back to Arthur again. I said, Jesus Christ, this is proving really difficult. Like there's not too many men that can probably work with me. I'm not the easiest man to work with. And then he knew because he had sat with me. So I talked him into it, basically. I talked him into it and he said he would then. And then we ended up buying Ali Fisher's R2 car, went up to Ivan Fisher's house, done the deal, bought the car, went to do 5 Mile Town. Something happened to the car, and not a great start to this campaign. But in the meantime, actually, one stage it was a shocking time. John Armstrong absolutely cleaned us, like, you know. John was sure, you know, with John's exploits now, but John was only 17 or 18 at the time, but he absolutely cleaned us, like, and I was devastated. Like, Jesus Christ, if you can't do it, you know, in 5 Mile Town, what's the hopes of me doing it in the Pirelli Rally? But anyways. At the meantime, while all this was going on, I was selling tickets. So again, we'll go back to the rally fraternity. The guys had got behind me, and I had basically got at least one man I knew in every county, or if it wasn't maybe a rally man, it was a lorry man or something, like, you know, in every county in the country. And they maybe took 20 odd tickets, and then some of them ring for more, and some of them say, I've got a few of them sold for you, all right. And I went to every event from Christmas 2012 right up until March 20. I done 16 weekends in a row, so I did selling tickets, whilst also trying to organise the whole thing myself, the logistics and everything else, and getting the car organised. So basically done a full strip and rebuild of the car, and got the car back to 0 kilometre, and Bobby was looking after a lot of it. And Yeah, and then I still had to get me. Now I must tell you, I remember you were asking me about the story. So even though I was nominated for Billy Coleman Award, this is the way my brain works. I'm a bit of I don't know what's wrong with me. I started like. So we must have got nominated for the Billy Coleman after winning Monaghan, so it was early enough in the year. But anyways, in my head then, I was like, well, just in case, I'll start preparing. So like for the rest of that year, even when we were doing Donegal, I sat on my left hand anywhere I drove. You won't believe this. I said it one day by accident, and Derek Mackerel was there, and Derek obviously is going really well lately, and he's done a few left-hand drive runs, and he was doing the same thing. When I said it, I said, "Oh, geez, what are people going to think now?" And then Derek said, "Oh, he done that as well, because you're going around and right-hand drive cars."
Yes.
But that's the way my brain worked. I was thinking, like, just in case I win the thing and we get a chance, I want to try and. Oh, sorry, I sat in my right hand. What am I on about? I sat in my right hand so I could build the muscle up. Try and get the muscles built up my left arm, because that's where I struggled. I had no feeling when I drove the Evo that time. If you went into a panic, you're coming down. The next thing you're going for the door handle rather than the gear lever. You know, sort of. You're like trying to handbrake the door handle off. I swear to God, like a few times you're like, oh geez, you have to think about it. So I was trying to get my left hand trained up to, you know, to have the same feeling, the feeling, because it's obviously going to be your predominant hand on the steering wheel. So this was going on for 6 months before that. There, like even though I had more or less, I suppose it's just a dreamer. It's just a dreamer, like, you know, just in case. So that goes on, and I said it one day, and Derek Mackerel, thankfully, had a similar experience. I was delighted, because that's the way I suppose you have to think. You can't. You're, not that I'm a total optimist, to be more of a realist, slightly more of a pessimist. But you have that in
thought going through your that process.
But anyways, look at him. I'm aware time is rattling on here, but I done the started in the BRC, and at the time I ended up buying the left-hand drive Focus off Barry Clark because I knew it was a good car, and bought it of him in Scotland, and I still wasn't 100% comfortable with the left-hand drive. So we done the Pirelli Rally, and we left north on the recce, and everything was going well, everything's going to plan. And then we weren't fast or sort of thing by any stretch of imagination. Them Kielder stages over there, and they're hard. Like they're you need to be there a few times to get used to them. Like, and this is our first time, and they're very, very fast, and they're open, and there's no markers on the road, and it's very dangerous. Like if you're off the road by a foot, they call it killer Kielder for a reason. You're into the drain, and you're into a bar roll, and then you're out of it. Like they're tough stages. So I was steady, slow and steady at the start, and then on the third stage, there's a rock that I had missed in the recce. Clipped it, burst the wheel instantly. Can't remember if we stopped and changed, but it was a long stage anyways, and carried on to the end. Dropped out of contention then. This is only on the 2-day rally, done the Friday, and then. But at that stage, then I was sort of starting to get a feel for it. I think we were sitting like top 2 times. Then your boy Steve Rockland was there, and he was their main competition that year. And a couple of other guys, North Face Fiestas, and Chris Ingram, and a few of these guys were there, and Twingos and stuff. Oh, sorry, it was a Twingo actually, an R2 Twingo. We were using the Pirelli Star Driver Award, not a Swift. Anyways, that's the yeah. And what was I saying there? Yeah, but so me and Arthur couldn't figure out where I clipped the rock. We know when you go back into the service, it's tight enough for time, and we're trying to find out where I clipped this rock because it wasn't sure. And sure, you couldn't have done it any better. I clipped the exact same rock in the exact same place. So 2 punctures on the same rock in 2 different stages.
Unbelievable.
And you can imagine how it was fit to be tied.
Yes.
And I don't know, we were sitting 5th or something anyways overnight, and 2 punctures. The whole thing was a disaster. I said, this is some start to the whole thing. But anyways, the Saturday was the main day then. I think there's 10 stages, and got into a good rhythm anyways, and go back up to 3rd overall. I think John was sitting blistering times, but maybe did he clip a bridge or something, or he ended up being out. Right. A few boys went out, and then so Rockland won it because he had done the rally the year before. He was living in the UK. He was the Fiesta Sport and Trophy winner from Norway.
Okay.
And he actually got a stint in M Sport, and you get a semi-works drive in on an R2 and with M Sport in the BRC. So he was doing that with his own car. Like I don't know what arrangement they had, but it was subsidized somehow or another. And he also done a 12-month stint in M Sport. You know, Craig Breen done it, and a few of these guys done it for winning the Fiesta Sport and Trophy. You know, just to give you. Probably more for mechanical knowledge, you know.
Yeah.
Should be a good experience for anybody. But anyways, so in the next round then was the Jim Clark, and Travis was back on tarmac. So I had never done the Jim Clark before. But anyways, good run anyways, yeah. So Rockland probably wasn't as comfortable on tarmac, but like we were racing the likes of John, and a couple of them English guys were pretty good, like they're pretty quick, you know.
Absolutely.
You know, it was tough competition, like there's no doubt about it. Like you're driving harder than everybody had to drive. And 600 R2, yeah, and then getting your head around front wheel drive and everything else, and you're just on the door handles. Like it was really, really tough going. Like, and you know, you had to take it so seriously, professional. At this stage, obviously, I had got into the fitness, lost a slap of weight, and took it. You know, I knew what had to be done to be looked at. You know, because the Pirelli Star Driver guys had told me, like, you know, this is what needs. You know,
this is the boxes you need to.
You know, you had 5 judges. Like, you know, you had Phil Mills, and you had there was a Finnish guy over. Not Lassie Lampy. Lassie Lampy's the guy who does the he controls. You know, he not controls, but he's like the. Yeah. He runs all the Finnish drivers. Like he's Robin Perez. I think he retired, but he came back out of retirement for Robin Perez. You can see why now. But anyways, it mightn't have been him, but some of his associates, you know, was connected with Pirelli. He was one of the judges and all these guys. They could see they had the raw talent, but what they told me that day was it's just too raw. Right. And obviously my fitness level. So got fairly good constructive criticism and took it on board. Yes. So come back then. What I was thinking more refined, obviously Billy Coleman Awards, giving it a good goal, but the whole end goal was to get nominated for the shootout. If you get to the shootout, then you have a chance, and anything else after that was a bonus. And then you had the Fiesta Sport and Trophy, there was money for that, and then if you won your class, you get extra amount of tires. So everything was sort of there was good incentives there for doing all these things. Won the Jim Clark. What was next then? The Scottish Rally. Again, Scottish Rally is a tough rally. It's like slate rock on it, and everyone was plagued with punctures, but anyways, we kept it steady. I think we had bent the back axle, the back axle in the car and stuff. Everyone had problems, but we won there. What was next after that?
Ulster then, wasn't it?
Was it Ulster? Yeah. So the Ulster, we're having issues with the car as well. The engine, there's now, I can't remember what it's called on the Ford engine, but it's like a VTEC system on their engines. Anyways, you know, where there's a wee cam lift. There's a lifter on the cam, you know.
EcoBoost, is it? That kind of thing, is it?
Yeah. They call it something else anyways, but yeah, that's what the engine's an EcoBoost engine. But anyways, there's something wrong. There's variable valve timing. Is that or something? There's somehow we control unit anyway started giving us bother. We were down on power the whole Friday before we diagnosed the problem, and we got them in. But John was way ahead. I think John was hitting the boys were in the DS3s that time. You know, Cave and Price and Cronin were probably still doing it. And these guys, and like, you know, they were obviously in a different pace. But like John Armstrong was matching and beating some of these guys. Obviously, he was local stages and what have you. But anyways, John then put the car off the road or first or second stage on Sunday morning. We'd fought back up the second and then got ahead of Rockland because, you know, we just had the tarmac pace and stuff, and ended up winning the Jim Clark. So then we were back in the lead of the championship. And then what was next then? You had the track road then, was it?
Yeah, the track road, the Manx first and then the track road all the way around.
No, we didn't do the Manx that year.
No, I think the track road then, I think, right. Yeah.
The track road, but we had done that in 2010, it was the same stages, so I had a good knowledge of it. So we're flying on the track road, like beat Rockland sort of fair and square, you know, at his own game, because they were real fast stages, like where the Scandinavian drivers really suited their style. Yes, we actually beat them fair and square. So to me, at that point, I was thinking, I have to be starting to show these guys, you know, that it's not just luck that we're winning. We won 4 rounds on the bounce, and then we went to the Sunseeker then, and all we had to do was like finish, I don't know what it was, in the top 3 or something, as long as, if Rockland won and we finished 4th, we won the championship. So you're winning the R2, there's the R2 British Championship, then you had the Fiesta Sport and Trophy, and obviously we already had the nomination in the bag from the Jim Clark, I think, so well, a lot of the boxes were ticked at that stage, but anyways, yeah. Typical me, I went around with nearly a full spares package in the back of the car, like with 2 dry shafts, cable tied in the car, and everything. You know, you wouldn't believe the amount of stuff in the car, and we still managed to set some fastest times. Like, you know, that's what I remember. Some of the English guys came over and seen the amount of stuff we were carrying, and then it was by Alex Perpotas, like, you know, and he's a good driver, and he was good crack. And you've Ingram and these guys standing around, and then they seen the amount of spares we were taking, and we were after setting the fastest time. Like, and Ingram or Perpotas just says, "You're only playing with a Stan," you know, like a typical English accent. You're only playing with Stan, right? It's like, what do you mean? You're still setting fastest times and all this, and you're carrying another half the car around with you. I goes, oh. But anyways, the Pirelli Star Driver Shootout was the Tuesday after the Sunseeker. So we'd won everything. We'd won all the championships I mentioned, and then the thing switched. Then was like, right, and at this time, then you had to bring your own car because Pirelli, I think, were sort of sick of what was happening in Pirelli Star Driver things. Boys were wrecking cars.
Oh yes, I remember
getting getting rode off. Like they're having to bring, like Tech Sport was having to bring 2 or 3 Subarus, and Davy Greer was on to bring 2 or 3 DS3s whenever that was, and the Twingos were getting wrecked, and it was just costing too much money. So Pirelli said, right, you can bring your own cars and see what you do. So you had a nominee from each rally, and then it was a wild card. So literally, it was the same whole group of guys I was competing against for the whole year. The whole R2 guys all got nominated. But anyways, we ended up we got a guys, Di Roberts then we got to know him, and wasn't that far from Sweet Lamb, and a friend of his gave us his garage. So on the Sunday we re-prepped the whole car, like basically went from carrying every spare in place to like you're nearly like they weren't gonna scrutinize the cars, they weren't gonna weigh them, so like we started to like lighten the car, but all the rest of them were at it as well. I don't think they weren't.
Yes.
And landed up to Sweet Lamb anyways, and same thing again. Did we do a fitness thing that time? Did we? We might have done a fitness thing in the hotel, actually. We're staying in wherever the place was we were staying in. Can't name it. Aberystwyth, is that where the nearest town?
Right.
Did we do something in the hotel? I think we done a fitness test in the hotel maybe the night before. Done something anyways. Or a doctor, we done, I'll tell you what we done. We done the thing where you see the cyclists doing it there, where you do your VO2 max. You done a VO2 max test or something?
Yes.
And then that test your oxygen levels. Yeah, so we done that the night before, and then there was a big dinner thing, and then the competition started properly then on the Wednesday morning, must have been. So same thing again. It was the pace note challenge, doing the pace notes. Then you done an interview. Then you had to do a questionnaire on your whole technical ability. They're asking you technical questions with the car and the tire pressures, how to set a car up, what do you adjust to, proper questions. Like this is like maybe being set up by Phil Mills and Chris Patterson and Nicky Grist and these guys. Like, then they came to the driving element. So there was, I can't remember what the length of stages were, but you done 2 runs in one stage and 2 runs in another stage, maybe 4 or 5 mile each. And now they don't tell you the times, but I heard back afterwards that we're a good bit quicker than everybody else. I was just fired up for it. Like I was in a different zone that day. Like I don't know why. For that in 2 days, like, and what I actually heard back afterwards. So James Aldridge, a guy in M Sport that I worked along with, he sat with Rockland that year, and he had been talking to someone at the time. But like Rockland was the main competition. Like if you're able to match or beat Rockland, you had a good chance. And like. We done well, like and me and Arthur put a lot of effort into it, and Bobby and Fenton and Damien and my father and everything was there, and like it was sort of theirs to throw away sort of thing, but like there was nobody. The way I was looking at, nobody's taking this of me. Like I put in this much effort and everything else, and that's the way I am. Like I'm ruthless enough that way, and sure enough, we won it then. So that was a massive deal. Like to me, that was like one of the biggest goals ever set, and got it. And with the Pirelli backing, like you're talking about. Talking about 200 grand.
This was going to take you to that level you wanted to go to, didn't it? Yeah. So,
Well, on the stepping stone, like they say, you had to set the 5-year plan. Like just doing the R2 championship even in Motorsport Ireland, that's not really a career aspiration. Like I was saying, like R2, win the British Championship, then the DS3s. It was all I had sort of mapped out. There was the whole thing sort of fell in place with the R2, R3, or R5 system, and if the plan had worked perfectly, I could be sitting here now as a fully paid works driver. But anyways, it didn't quite go that way. But anyways, I suppose I know time's getting on, Jesus Christ. But so anyways, British Championship then with Pirelli. So this is when I went to a different level again, because like you're literally like a professional driver, like even though you're not, you're still an amateur, really. A lot more pressure on you then. So first thing was you had to go and get media training. So I remember I had to go down meet with Mark James. So Christopher Patterson ended up being my mentor because he was associated with Pirelli at the time. So Chris Patterson was a massive help to us at that time, like because obviously he's from the island, he knows the crack, and he had the experience. Like he was still sitting with your man, the Khaled Al Qasimi or whatever. In the Citroen. So he's still he was a full-time professional driver, and this is what he's doing, mentoring myself and Arthur, and obviously David Greer was involved and everything else. So a lot of things were in our favour in terms of we had a team from the island that was going over to try and take on the championship. And I struck up a good relationship with Matthew Corby right from the off. Even that whole year, 2013, he just liked the way we went about our business. They could come over as underdogs, absolutely, not absolutely, but dominated that championship, and we're like we won we were the standout winners from the shootout thing, and we turned a lot of heads. Like we're ticking a lot of boxes. That stage, I could talk. I was very intelligent. I knew the mechanical side, and I could drive. And and I looked after my fitness as well. So I was taking a lot of boxes for them. Like, they were probably seeing something that we could work with something here.
Yes.
So anyways, we ended up doing the deal with David going to the Circuit of Ireland, and but Matty Corby then also. I should say one thing that always stands out. Went over to Didcot, which is over in the south of England somewhere, where they make the Formula One tyres. So Pirelli were still living.
Yes.
So we were in that factory there. That's something else, like an absolutely huge facility where they make the tyres. But the thing that stands out in my mind, the Max Verstappen thing where he was up the ski slope with the spiked tyres. They had just made them tyres. And your man was showing me these, and I was like, "What the hell is this?" And like these, like studded F1 tires, and your man's like, we're doing this project Red Bull. It's going to be amazing, all this here. And sure, like, probably one of the, I don't know.
It's like it's iconic things, isn't it? Yeah.
But this guy was the head of everything. Like, this guy was running he looking after the guy who was basically signing the checks for our campaign. He was organising the car, all the trucks that went to the F1 races all around Europe, all the long haul events. He's in control of like Pirelli Motorsport UK, and they also had the event. They also won the contract for the F1. Like this, by Matty Corby was serious concern. Like, But anyways, the first we done the Circuit of Ireland and Arthur, and really, really good run. Yuka Cornan was there. He was the reigning British champion, and we beat him quite well. We beat him quite convincingly, and then he ended up actually putting the car off. First time ever in the car, and so that was a good omen to start with.
And that was around the ERC that year too. So
that was around the ERC, yeah.
All these young guns over from Europe and all too.
Yeah, I'll never forget it. Actually, the second day, Lappy was winning in the S2000. But there was reverse seeding for the top guys, the ERC1 drivers, and we were the top 10 of. We were winning, so we actually ran behind Lappy for the whole day. So it was good. Actually, it's actually good crack with him. Like, but it's just unreal. This is like the reigning European champion, soon to be
the next WRC star,
the next WRC2 champion, and on to obviously win Rally Finland. I know he's not doing it well.
He's back this year now.
Yeah. But I remember just watching them guys at the start of the stage. He had this whole thing where he done his thing with his hands. You probably see it. But I also remember there was a real long stage. You had the Tour head stage and all, but there's a long stage, like a 25 miler. And I never forget, you just learn all the time, but these wee canisters, was actually, what it was 4 psi of air. So what they did was, because it was the long stage, they let more tire pressure out of the tire, because on the length of the stage, the tire would overinflate with the heat.
Okay.
So let me see, what way did they do it then? So they let the air out of the tire, right, at the start of the 25-mile stage, done the stage, but in the time the tires, readjusted back to the tire's only sitting like a 20 psi for back to like a normal length stage. So then you had to replenish it. So the DV bottles, you see, you don't have them on bicycle repair kits.
Right.
I was like, Jesus Christ, like, it's such a simple idea. And like, but that's the difference, you're seeing the works teams in action here.
That's their mindset.
That was like basically carrying 4 psi of tire pressure with them, and just like totally legal. There's nothing illegal about it all. No. And then I discovered then when I went to M Sport, that's the norm. They've been doing it for 20 odd years. And like, I was blown away by this wee bottle. Like, and since that now, when I be out cycling, like, you use them to repair your punctures. If you get a puncture out in the road, you wouldn't be going at it now with a bicycle up anymore. You get one of these, close the tire up immediately. Like, it's just so. But I remember them using that, and I was just fixated. But I couldn't get to the bottom of it, and then I asked them, like, and I said, "What the hell are you at?" Like, and he told me the correct. Like,
it's just amazing that that level at the this is where you need to be.
Yeah, that was it. It was an eye opener. But anyways,
so
back to the BRC then. So we went to we were supposed to do the Bulldog Rally, but it got cancelled for some reason.
Yeah.
So the way Corby looked at it was, Matthew Corby looked at it was, the money that we're saving there means you can put more money into you for your testing program and stuff like that there. It's just money. Like, them monies will cost quite a lot of money. Them rallies will cost quite a lot of money. Anyway, so we done the Pirelli, but them DS3s are notoriously difficult. Citroens in general are notoriously difficult to get set up, especially on gravel. And we had done testing. I was happy enough with the car, but anyways, went to the Pirelli, and Price was, he was the hot shoe there at the time. He had won the last couple of rounds the year before. I think Cornan only just pipped him and Cave and maybe Cronin to the post that year. Yeah, Cronin won it in 2013 in the finish up. I can't remember now. Cornan was quick anyways, but Price absolutely blitzed us. We were still second, like, we're still able to keep in front of the other guys. The other guys in DS3s and the R2 guys, like, we're still the best of the rest of the world, but he absolutely blitzed us, like, couldn't see the road again. Eventually started like playing around with the damper stuff, got the car I was able to match him towards the end of the rally, but it was same as usual. He was backing off, Rally was starting to get into the flow. But anyways, the Jim Clark was the next one, and we're starting to learn the rallies at this stage, but we had a real good run the Jim Clark. Like, we were tit for tat, right from the very start. It was only a handful of seconds, and we started actually gaining a bit of an advantage. And I know that Abbey St. Batten stage, and the one through the crossroads, the big jumps and all that. Geez, like iconic stages, like. And like, we were going that hard, like we were taking all that stuff flat, like, over the big jump and through the crossroads. It was scary enough sort of stuff. And then you go over that next crest, you see some of the guys braking before it, like, but there's actually a right bit of distance. When you go through that cross, you see guys braking and lifting that there, but you actually take that flat, and there's 100 meters afterwards before you come to the left-hander. But anyways, taking that stuff flat, like, and it was like balls to the wall stuff, like, and it was some feeling, like, because like the car was working unreal. That was when me and Cairns realised that, if you have one of these cars properly set up and you went to the Lakes of Donegal over the course of a Donegal weekend, it'd be a homologated car. There's no reason why you couldn't. That's another thing I must say. Like, we done the circuit that time, first time out in the car, and the milkman. Not that he still is flying, I'm sure. He was flying at the time. He had the Class 13 car. Yeah. And over the course of the weekend, we ended up, I think we're 18 seconds ahead of him, and I was trying to gauge the pace, but like his pace at the time was like the top national car. He won the national that day, and he was flying. And we were 18 seconds quicker than him over the weekend. And I was thinking, like, where would that put, and I don't know where we were overall, but it was some result. But me and Cairns were sort of trying to judge where would you be in the likes of Donegal. With attrition and everything else, you probably have a top 5 international finish in the DS3 in the right hands, Yes. But anyways, I'm getting away from the point again. Went to the Jim Clark, ended up being a bad accident that time. The rally was cut short, but it was only like 2 stages to go. But we won the rally. Next rally was Scotland. And at this stage, I had figured out that we were on the wrong springs in the car, in the rear of the car, where you had, like, there was 5 or 6 different options of springs. I went for a set softer. We were testing up in Seamus O'Connell's one day, checked these springs out and transformed the car. So now I knew I had the pace and gravel. Went to Scottish Rally, and I think to Price's probably dismay, we were actually beating him, coming from where we were at. And
he thought he had the measure of being gravel, probably at that stage.
Probably, yeah. But I didn't give him too much away. Not that he was giving too much away, but I knew that we were sort of struggling with the car and we could get it sorted, which we did. And then we were, look, he was still fast. We were probably faster than us in some of the days. But anyways, he developed some sort of a gearbox problem. He had to pull out, but I think we were ahead of him at the time. Anyways, we ended up winning the Scottish Rally. And the Scottish Rally to me was very special because for whatever reason, we were seated like 1 and 2 in the road. So it's not as if, I think you had Bogey and these guys doing the rally and WRCs and stuff, but
of course,
some of them had dropped out of the rally, and we were in such a pace. We were actually faster than a lot of the regular Scottish Championship guys. So we actually won. Not only did we win the BRC, we won the rally overall. So we were handed the trophy, and on that trophy, like, you have, like, first of all, you have Colin McRae, you have Alice McRae, you have Jimmy McRae, Richard Bournes, Harry Vatten, and Mikkola, Marco Allen, all of the legends of the sport. From back in the 70s, Roger Clark, all these guys. And our names on that trophy now. Like,
Daniel McKenna and half the Cairns on that now.
2014. Like, I know. See, the championship was a bit of a damp squib because there was only really the 2 of us racing. There was other guys there, but honestly, there was a 2-horse race, and the R2 championship was sort of dwindled out, and they're running this R1 thing. And at the time, then the news came through that that was going to be the last year of the 2-wheel drive format. They were going to change the R5. And Mark Taylor and the people who were helping him out, their tenure was finished, and the man Scunner Campbell, what do you call him, Ian Campbell, was taking over then. So the whole thing sort of dwindled out a wee bit, but it didn't really matter to me in Price because we knew that there was a British title on the line, and it meant the same to us no matter. Once, like as long as you have one person in the race, there's a competition. Like,
that's it. It's going to be a battle. If you have somebody like it's honours at stake at that stage, isn't it?
So the way it was working out, then there wasn't much between us. Went to the Ulster Rally then. And then, unfortunately, there was that we lost Timmy at that rally. So, geez, quite a lot of tragedy that year, unfortunately. So that rally was cut short, and I think at the time, I don't know what was, maybe a half points were given or something.
Right. Yeah.
But I think we had a problem. There was only 2 stages. That was the 3rd stage. I think we were fast in the 1st stage. Price was fast in the 2nd. I don't know. I think I don't know what happened. I can't remember, to be honest with you, because that wasn't the most important thing at that time.
No.
But anyways, we were given half points. I ended up going in the Heilemann Rally, which was a 3-day event. It started on the Thursday. Well, to me, it was a 3-day event. It started on Thursday afternoon, all day Friday, all day Saturday. So what they did was to split it, because they lost the Bulldog Rally at the start of the year, to split it into a double header. And the last round was double points. But whatever way the championship was, as long as we stayed, I can't remember the.
I think I just finished behind.
Yeah,
it didn't matter if he won. If you just were second.
Yeah, so I think if he won the second last round and we were second, well then I think we're still down that close to the wire. We would beat him in the last round. But if we beat him on the second last round, and we could end up finishing, we could finish 3 places behind him and still win the championship. So anyways, we started out and Thursday night. So that year also I done a deal with Matthew Corby of bringing out these new Pirelli Star tyres, which a lot of the guys use now, but he was trying to develop them, and he asked us to do a few rallies in the Escort in Ireland to try and promote them. So we done, I think we done Midlands and we done Monaghan, and we ended up doing the Manx National to try and learn the roads over there a bit, because we've never been on the Heilemann. So that was a good event as well. And we done Donegal, again leading the national in Donegal, but I think the first stage on the Sunday morning was ourselves and Phillips again, battling back to the good old times. And I had the paddle shift in at the time, but I was downshifting on Glen from 5th down to 4th, and heavy braking. And the wheels are dragging. She broke a wee roll pin on the selector barrel. So it meant that the car could go into any gear, could even go into reverse. And if you go into reverse in a sequential box, you wreck everything. So couldn't chance it. We eventually got the car into 3rd gear, and he caught and passed us and crawled out, but you couldn't risk a 10 grand box, you know. So we ended up pulling out the rally, and with nothing, he was way on that stage. He was 30 seconds ahead of us. We were leading at that time, but he caught and passed us, and so he took 40-50 seconds. So it was his to lose at that stage. So ended up pulling out. Plus the Jim Clark was the following weekend, so we had other things to focus on. But anyways, so back to the story. Anyways, started out then. And them English rallies, are not English rallies, but the BRC, they use these loop stages. You don't see them anywhere else. They do it in the Jim Clark and they do it in the Manx.
They done it in the Ulster 1 year. You merge again, don't you do a loop?
Yeah, merge. Yeah, wouldn't be a fan of them at all. Because all it takes is one guy to have a half spin and the whole thing's out of kilter. As long as everyone runs to their time limit, it's fine. But anyways, and subsequently that happened. So we were fast in the first stage. I think he was fast in the second. The third stage then, I think, was one of the R2 guys or something. They were doing their first lap. We were coming down their second lap. Now, Price was held up as well, but the young boy, English boy Chris Wheeler, put the yoke on the hedge and blocked the stage. But we could get around them anyways. But there was a bit of controversy there on the Thursday night, because I don't know, Price had lost time, we had lost time, and there's all this sort of stuff going on. But anyways, Friday morning then we were back at it again. There wasn't much in it, and there was a stage on the Thursday night, and we had beat him well on it. Actually, it was a long stage in the dark, and we had took like 10 seconds out of him. I don't know, for whatever reason. And then it was going to be the third or fourth stage on the Friday. But anyways, there wasn't much between us. And then I got a puncture. I went wide on the left-hander, caught a bit of gravel, got a puncture. Didn't lose that much time. Only dropped to 10 seconds, but it meant that we were back down. I think we were ahead of him. We had the measure of him. And then the next stage was this one that we took the time out of him. And I was saying to Arthur, if we can do the business now so that we don't have to race him the whole weekend, I said, if we beat him in this round for the second, I said, then it's ours to lose. I said, all we have to do is just cruise around. We can keep ahead of the R2 guys, pick up the points, win the championship. I said, we can do the business here now. I said, we rattled him on this one last night. I said, I'm going to go for it in this one. I'm going to try and do the old Bernie Fisher trick, try and demoralize the opposition on the first stage, everything. But anyways, it totally backfired on me. Going really well. It was probably one of those things where I was driving really, really well through the stage. But anyways, it's that same, the jumps that Vatman wrecked the black Escort on, that double jump. We were coming in the opposite direction. Fast corner, 5th or 6th gear, anyways, and there's a lot of other tricky stuff. That's that same straight bit of the road rollers from McRae, rolled the golf, remember the F2 golf coming the other way, the kick jump, and a lot of boys have wrecked along there. It's claimed a lot of victims, including myself. Anyways, over that crest, car got out of sequence, and the back left wheel caught the grass and put me into a tank slapper. Tried to fight as best I could, and then clipped the bank. And instead of trying to slow the car down, I tried to go with the car and see what could get her back and try and get her back in phase, but she just wouldn't come back. And then clipped the bank and started rolling down the road. And she actually slid on the roof. She actually wore the roof skin down onto the roll cage, whole right. There's a line across the roof skin. The car was wrecked. British Championship in tatters. And then, of course, we were first car on the road, and Price landed. We had blocked the stage. Then stage stopped, and it was one of them loop stages as well. So it was complete chaos.
Yes.
But anyways, so Price and a whole lot of marshals everyone had to help us in, had to roll the car back on his wheel, sitting on his roof. And sure, like Price is probably was trying to stop himself from smiling. He's like,
I rubbing his hands here going,
and he's like, the championship's there. But anyways, I got in because I had to reverse the car on the road, but push the car on the road 100 meters to get into the first gateway we could see. And I think there was only about 2 or 3 stages left, to finish the first round of the second last round of the championship. So Price obviously won it. But as we were going down, Price is actually pushing it. And I turned on the ignition, and you have to get the hydraulic system because it's paddle shift. The car was still in 6th gear. So I put the clutch in. And as we were rolling back, I realised, Jesus Christ, hold on a second. Now, there was no windscreen. The car was in bits. There wasn't a straight panel on the car. But I realised I had steering, I had brakes, I had gears. She was going down the box. Now, there's a lot of stuff broken. I said, so then we got her swung into the field. And so me and Arthur were like, I think we can fix this. You can Karen just looked at me thinking, what's wrong with this? And Price, and tell you what, the exhaust got wrapped around the back axle. You couldn't even start the car because the exhaust was closed, Yes. Price rolled off, and then you could see me. I started pulling the front bumper and stuff to see what much damage was done, was the chassis bent or what. And as he was driving past, I remember turning around and looking at his co-driver Dale Furness, and Furness is like looking at me with a puzzled face. And I think he was thinking like, is McKenna actually seriously thinking about trying to fix this car or whatever? So anyways, DGM boys landed out, and I was on the phone to them already, and I said, I think we can fix this car. And you had 3 hours. There was 3 hours before you could start. They're starting again on the Friday night. Next thing, we pulled her in. First thing is the scrutineers will check the roll cage is all right. So Rob McDonald checked the car, and although the roll bar actually did get a wee bit of road rash on it, the main hoop, Rob says, "Look, that's only superficial. It's only superficial. So I'm up enough for you to fix the car." So then we tore into the car. Like I'm talking about, there was the 4 DGM guys. We had a right contingent of air lads over. There must have been 15 of us working. We were getting in the way of each other. And then I'd also got friendly with Paul McCann. I was over at the Manx Rally. Paul McCann, he was like in fairness to Davey and Raymond Moore, they had like spare everything. The spare door, spare everything. So we were putting everything in the car. Like Paul McCann's going down to the organizer, see the spare door stickers and stuff like this year, and it was unreal. Like, and me and Arthur, Arthur's an engineer by trade as well. Like, and he was cutting and welding. And what the biggest problem I had was we snapped the 2 front bolts in the front cross member. It obviously carries the whole engine and gearbox, and they had sheared off in the chassis leg. So basically, Marcus Dixon and David Much basically had to spend the whole 2.5 hour service trying to get these bolts out of the chassis, because if we couldn't get that fixed, we were snookered. Like, whereas the rest of us were doing everything else, like Plus, we were going into night stages, so I had ripped the whole front of the car. So we basically had to me and Arthur had to makeshift lamp pod brackets out of like aluminium and screw them onto the front bumper and stuff. It was so mad. Like somehow or another, we done it. Like we had to replace all the glass and everything. We got the car fixed, got it back up. And you had to have the car up at a park firm at a certain time. And we got in anyways, made it by the skin of our teeth, and we had half an hour then to try and like recuperate. Like, so this time I just had one of the biggest accidents of my life, and I was still in the chance of winning the British title here. And the car wasn't right. Like, we went into that first loop of stages, and I don't even think we had time to track the car or anything. So she was handling like a pig. Like, so went into the first stage, and sure, Price completely cleaned us. And then the second stage, I think it was more just mind over matter. Like, I just said, I'm not going to let this. I'm not going to let this get away from me. And the second stage, then we end up having a middling time. Like, I think we had the international guys, but the local national guys were out in WRC cars. They were faster than us, but we were faster. Anyways, had a real cracking time. Anyways, and beat Price fairly well. Now he was still in the lead, I think, because we had a bad stage in the first stage. But anyways, showed that it wasn't going to go away. And I don't know if the pressure got to him on the third stage. Then it's that same stage where Vatanen touches the bridge and the Manta, coming in the opposite direction. And it's real fast coming through that section. Then you're slowing down. You come to that town with the left and right, the stagger cross roads, And not a town, it's a wee village. There's a chicane before it, and there's a wee lay-by. And Price must have come in too hot, and he couldn't get her stopped. And he made an attempt to go to the bridge, but there's a big, massive curb on the outside of the lay-by. And he clobbered the rear left wheel off the curb and put the back left wheel in. He got to the end of the stage, but he was out of the rally.
Right.
He more or less out of the rally. Now he was able. That was the last stage to go back in the service, but he dropped the load of time. Was he had to crab the car out? We took like a minute out of him. We were on his bumper, come over. The back left wheel is under, so he was able to stay in the rally, I think, or he might have had the super rally. But that stage, like Jesus Christ, with a full day's rallying to do, and it was their championship to lose. So So somehow, myself and Arthur kept it together. Like, Arthur was doing out all the fuel calculations. He's adding 20 litres on just in case. We're carrying 2 spare wheels. We're carrying a load of spares. I didn't switch the car off the whole day in case it wouldn't start.
Again.
So, like, we were sitting in all the Crows. I left the car running, just in case. Start of the stage, you got the stage is delayed, like maybe 15 minutes. I had the car running the whole time. I just sat. I didn't, probably wasn't good for the turbo, but I didn't care. I just, because I wasn't driving. We were not just driving around, like, and we done it. Won the British Championship. There you are.
And even once again danced on the roof.
The usual story.
Yeah.
So the crack was 90 in Heilemann, so we had a good celebration that night, and everybody was up on the roof. It didn't matter that stage; the roof was already gone. So there we were. I think the third ever Irish British champion, like, Billy Coleman, Cronin had won it a few times, and then ourselves. I think Arthur. Well, there's a few Irish. Done it anyways.
Like, and as you say, you're naming that trophy again. When you look at the list of names, had been on that trophy, it's a real roll of honour too, isn't it? So, but this then only led you to, you had to go on to the next level, really, then at that stage.
Well, this is where we're in a conundrum then, because like, we had a really good year, got as much out of it as we could. Like, I remember Art McCarrick and a few of these guys ended up helping in 2015, and they said, even when it came to us with the Billy Coleman, like, he always, I don't think there's any other person, certainly in Irish motorsport, that would have got as much out of what they had as me. Like, whatever it was, like, if there was a 1% to get out of it, I got it. It's, I don't know, but that's the way he thought of it. I didn't think of it like that, but when he put it to me, like, Art McCarrick said that I was probably the best value for money that Motorsport Ireland ever had. Like, with 50 grand, won them, a Pirelli Star Driver shootout and a British title, and we hadn't 2 pennies to rub together, if you know what I mean. Like, not trying to take away from anybody. All the guys won the Billy Coleman, and of course they did. Keith Cronin's won multiple championships and everything else. But I don't know. I suppose just from the point of view that we were at, where I was having to go around selling tickets for 16 weekends in a row, which wasn't easy. And raising, like, and the motorsport fraternity, like, we raised 33 grand, like, and then obviously sponsors came on board and stuff. But in 2014, we were in the conundrum, like, we're stuck in stalemate. We're the British Rally champions, but we hadn't the money to do anything with our fives ourselves. And the next natural progression then, which was part of my plan, was to go to the JWRC, like, for 2015. But the money that was involved was crazy, like.
Telephone
but anyways,
at that stage, really?
Yeah, it's mental. Like, you wouldn't believe it. If I start going through the figures now, you wouldn't believe it. But anyways, we sat down and had a meeting in December. So we done this homecoming. We actually had a civic reception in Monaghan Town, where the Monaghan County Council actually funded this civic reception. A lot of people came from all over the country, like, to me and Arthur's, sort of very humble. We were very humbled by it, but the one thing that happened that night was we're sitting beside one of the local councillors, and he could see what was happening. And obviously, there was a buzz. It was all over the radio, and there was there's a lot of talk on it in local. And at the same time, Monaghan County Council were trying to do this new tourism thing. And there was a thing with the RSA happening, the safe drivers, always are winners, and all this stuff. So you seen them that started doing these things. And it was this guy started thinking about. Porrick McNally was his name, Councillor McNally, and he started thinking, geez, maybe something. He was asking me what happens now, and at this point I was like, nothing. I says, unfortunately, with where rallying is, nothing's going to happen. I says, that's the end of the road for me, and he couldn't understand this. Like, he ended up having a meeting with me afterwards, and he says, I've had a meeting with the other councillors, and we think we might be able to do something for you. Like, I didn't know what we were talking about, but anyways. And then with a meeting, so transpired they were interested in funding us to do something. Like, it wasn't astronomical money, but it was a lot of money. Don't get me wrong. And the caveat was I had to go to a lot of these civic functions with the car, go to school events, do these talks. I ended up now. We started now, and Stephen Wright and Shane McGuire, a couple of local young Irish Monaghan drivers got involved, going down to the secondary schools every year to the transition year students. And it's all about road safety and stuff. It's a great scheme, like, and it all sort of born out of this. And you bring the car along, you're trying to say to these guys, look, you don't have to go out racing cars on the road and all this kind of stuff. You can go to a controlled environment, join your motor club, start marshalling, get involved in navigating, all this kind of stuff. And it's all a controlled environment, a safe atmosphere. It's a great initiative, anyways. So this guy had seen this sort of thing, and then we had a meeting with a couple of our sponsors and stuff, and then we got a team together. So at this time, Pirelli was gone. the Pirelli funding. Obviously, you had to run Michelin, so I had rang Matthew Corby. He says, "Is there anything you do for me?" He says, "What can I do for you?" He says, "You have to run Michelin." I was like, "No, but you're." Fortunately, he says, "Look, if there's anything I can help with, I will." But my hands are tied here, so that was grand. And so end of this, we sat down. There was a team of us. The list is too long now. I could start naming names. I'm conscious of the time because this is probably going way over time. Sorry, Kevin, but anyways, it's we sat down. And what we said was, we'd rather regret trying something than regret not trying at all. Even though it was a complete wing on a prayer job, we decided, my family, me now wife Aisling, with Andrew back on the fray that time. Andrew had come back from Australia. Andrew was mad to go at it. And we had got a couple of local businessmen to sort of fund me buying a car. Not local businessmen. I can name some of these guys. There was Martin Brady, there was Barry McKenna, but also then, Ian Gunning from Gusclad and Kieran Phelan. Phelan, from Automation Technology, FAC or whatever way you pronounce it, FAC. These guys, the likes of Conor McCrossan up in KES and Porrick Duffy and Kevin Glynn, Silver Hill Development, Silver Strand Developments, they had the R5s and stuff with the case. And then you had McIlvany Motors, Maguire, Kevin Barrett, Eamon Boland. A lot of these guys got behind me. Aidan Hart, Pete Monaghan. And I couldn't believe it. Like, these guys are willing to take a chance on me, if you're going like from boys maybe sponsoring you maybe 2 tires or a set of tires at a rally or 500 or 1,000, these boys are putting in big bucks like in comparison, because that's what it took. So anyways, the whole thing started to come together. Obviously the dates were released, and Monte Carlo was the first one on the list, and then there was a massive gap. So you had 7 events. I think you had to enter 6 events, and there was your best 5 scores out of 6. Using the Citroen DS3, I was a max. You had the max kit on the car. Everyone was in the same thing. So obviously, and then also I was getting backing from Citroen. So if you had won your sort of national championship, I was the BRC representative. Citroen funded it. So like the entry fees were covered. Like the entry fees, like for JWRC rounds, like $4,000. This is the money you're talking about. It's silly. The fuel, you had to use the same fuel as the WRC cars used. That was €7.50 a litre. Mad stuff. Like, you had no choice. It was all monopolized. You couldn't do it. It was all controlled. Like, it was just mad. You couldn't even buy your own. You couldn't even buy the Michelin tire. You had to buy the Michelin tire through Michelin directly in France, because it was all barcoded, so to eliminate cheating and stuff. Yes, it was extortion. It was extortion stuff. But anyways, So the only man we could think of was Damien Connolly had done Monte Carlo with Aka Mornbull's son in 2005 with the M Sport. And he had done it, and he was obviously, we knew him. So we got Damien Connolly on board, and then Gary McElhinney and Damien used to compete together in navigations. So he needed a driver, so we needed a national crew. And then Damien, I was sitting with Robert Barber, who got involved with CA1 Sport, which is Martin Wilkinson. And Martin obviously used to be Colin McRae's number 1 mechanic and other drivers' number 1 mechanics in M Sport before he went out on his own. Been to Monte Carlo multiple times, knew how it worked, knew about the studded tires. So Damien says, like, no disrespect to anybody, to any of your own team or Davy Gray or any, but no one had done Monte Carlo. Monte Carlo's never rounded the championship. Damien was 100% right. You need someone that's experienced. You can't be going. But the way we looked at it was, nobody is experienced there, so we have as much a chance, apart from the local French drivers, we have as good a chance out there as anybody. Because if you go to Portugal and Finland and Sardinia and all these other ones, everybody's done them rounds multiple times. So I was like, if we go there and get a good result, then there was a massive gap. We didn't have to do, I don't know what we could do Portugal, and the way you gapped it out, you could gap nearly 2 or 3 months in between each event and gather up the money as you went. That's the whole thing was planned out into December, the whole year, providing everything went well. It's the same thing again. But anyways, it was like a wing and a prayer job. Anyways, bought a car at Davy Greer, had to buy the max kit out of France. Bobby built the car again, fine job done with the car. Done a bit of testing, everything seemed grand. Then we sent the car over to Martin Wilkinson. All this, Raymond Moore then got involved as well. So Raymond supported us at the same time. Price was doing the championship, so Raymond had done a deal with us. So Adrian McElhinney had given us his big motorsport trailer to take with us, sponsored it to us for the year. And Raymond basically packed out. So he was, instead of us having to be me and Price being out the price and spares, Raymond went to the rally. And Dean Rafferty he won the Billy Coleman Award. He ended up doing a few rallies. So Raymond was really running the spares for 3 cars. So rather than us being out the money of stocking the trucks ourselves, Raymond agreed to come out, run out of the back of our lorry. He ran out of the back of our lorry, and he basically ran the parts department for the 3 guys out of the the back of the lorry. It worked well actually, but like, you know, for Raymond to do that, for Raymond to do that was unbelievable, like, you know, and that's why I owe so much to Raymond too. And Johnny, like Raymond wasn't able to go to all events, but Johnny came out to the events with us, and you know, and like there's some carrying to them cars, like, you know, at the rate we were going through stuff, like, so I suppose maybe it was a worthwhile venture for Raymond too. You know, he was trying to get his business off the ground, and but anyways, only for him, it never would have worked.
Yes.
So I can't believe all these people are coming around us, but I suppose they could see that we had a chance. And he was landed to Monte Carlo. Now, we didn't have Raymond on board this time, but Raymond sent us with spares. But unfortunately, the money was that tight with no spare gearbox, with no spare damper. You know, we were going out, and it was very much hope for the best sort of thing. So the first thing was we got Eamon Boland involved as well. So fly into Nice, you had to do the sign-on in Nice, which is down in, you flew into Nice and you drive to Monaco and do the sign-on like on the main straight, you know, the Formula One races, like in the Automobile Club de Monaco, you know, sign on in there. And then of course you had to turn around then and drive 3 hours up into the French Alps, because although it's the Monte Carlo Rally, there's nothing. So like what we didn't realize at the time was you can't pick up a rented car in Nice with studded tires, because you're in the south of France where it's the sun shining. You're on the southern French Riviera. Like. So we were driving up in a rented Hertz Eamon Boland car and no studded tires into the French Alps. Like 2 rented cars, one for us and one for Damien and Gary. And we didn't get too far into the recce. Sure, next thing we're slid into a drain onto the first bit of snow in the recce, and she couldn't get up. There were snow tires, but they weren't studded. Into the first drain, ended up Derek Brannigan and Weavy ended up pulling. No, they were doing the gravel notes for Meek. They ended up pulling us out. They were in this, I don't know what, it was an Evo 9. I tell you how bad it was. You couldn't even stand up on it. We ended up. It was a 52-kilometer stage. I remember it well. Like, and this is just a complete alien. Like, I'm wearing a summer-tired Renault Megane or something, trying to do recce. And there's Weavy and Derek Brannigan trying to do notes for Meek, like, you know, the gravel notes for Meek. You know, they're obviously doing their own reconnaissance sort of thing. And here they are having to pull out the 2 paddies out of the drain. Like, it's just, it was like, what are we doing here? And then, literally, he just towed us out. Derek, Weavy had moved on about 100 meters, and like I couldn't even get going. The next thing, the car, no traction at all. Next thing, straight into the drain again. I had to reverse back down, and then he basically had the Norses out at the end of the stage. And this stage, we were on the phone, so Gary McElhinney and Damien had to drive down to some garage. Ended up getting 2. I don't know how they done it. Like typical Irishmen, got 2 steel rims that would fit around on McGann. Bought 2 studded tires for us. It's like something you'd see in Nick Navigation or Chase or something. Rally. And anyways, and got them bolted on, and we got around the recce. Like, but sure, it was the recce was Monday, all day Tuesday, and then you finished I think you done the last stage on the Wednesday morning, and then you done the shakedown Wednesday night. Yeah, you done the shakedown Wednesday night. This is up in Gap, like. At this stage, so Martin Wilson landed the car, got through scrutineer, and so we wouldn't have had a clue how to do any of that stuff. You know, only for Martin, like, you know, we wouldn't know how to put a car. So the car wasn't really. It was ready for like international race, but it wasn't ready for like a WRC race. Like, we didn't even realize that there was trackers and everything involved. He knew that all that be set.
Set up.
And we learned it all for ourselves. Anyways, went and done the shakedown on Wednesday night, and it was wet. It wasn't snowy. It was wet, but I still hadn't driven on studded tires at the stage, and we knew there was going to be snow. Like, so done one run on the soft slicks. Got a run on them, and then even though it wasn't snowy, I put on a set of. I didn't even put on the studded tires. That was stupid. I put on the snow tires just to see what the fit like. And you're going out the road. You're going out the road on the dry tar, and the car is just like, I don't know. It's like driving a tractor. Like the feeling.
There was no feel.
The car just floats on the road, and I was like, this is silly. How can you drive on these? Like, and the car is just literally just like when you put the studs on, it's even worse. Like literally, it's like I could probably. If you imagine like ice skating or something, or trying, if you're like Bambi on ice, like trying to drive on dry tarmac, you know, smooth tar with studded tires.
Yes.
They're not the proper Sweden spec tires, I must say. Like, this is just the tarmac tire with a little 3 mil stud in it, you know. But like they still work. So this stage then we done 3 runs and shakedown was all you're allowed, and anyways, we just didn't know what we were doing, to be honest with you. Anyways, you had to then go drive back down on the Thursday morning, drive the whole way back down to Monaco, do the ceremonial start, and drive back out of Monaco to 3 hours back up the road. But what happened was we went over the ramp in the front of Casino Square, and then out the road, and there's up the motorway then, you know, over towards Nice and up the motorway before you go into the mountains, and there's a lorry went on fire in the tunnel on the opposite side of there's a toll road, you know.
Okay.
And the whole thing was complete and utter chaos. Like the WRC guys were caught up in it, like the top, like OJ, all these guys were caught up in it. they ended up having to open a piece of the barrier, put everyone to the other side. So they had to basically make like 4 lanes of traffic, go into the tunnel, because one side of the tunnel was poured out. And the toll, people are having to go through the toll bridges and everything in the wrong direction. It was just total and complete and utter chaos. The roadbooks, like you imagine, the roadbooks are set to the kilometers and everything.
Yes.
Your whole trips were out. Everything was wrong. Like, so you talk about a job, and it's pitch black, and you're in the French Alps on a Thursday night, like, and it's freezing. It's like -10. And next thing you'll eventually land up, and there was cars, like we end up starting, like car 26, like a WRC Fiesta was a car in front of us. We were running car 50 something, and there's boys who should have been ahead of us who were running behind us. So nobody knew what was going on with the times. And actually, so Damien and Gary had done the ice notes, full snow, they said. Yes. Full snow and ice. Yeah. So Damien was on the phone to Andrew and they're writing out the notes. Martin Wilkins says, yeah, full ice conditions. I never even drove in studs. I must tell you another story actually. Before we landed to Nice, I said to Gary McElhinney, we're getting off the airport bus. I says to Gary, what's the story with driving these yokes on the opposite side of the road? And Gary's jaw dropped on the floor. I'd never drove a car outside of Ireland or England. Like, I'd never driven on the opposite side of the road. I drove left-hand drive. And Gary's like, are you fucking for real? We're going to do a WRC event. You've never been driven a car on the wrong side of the road. Like, I didn't know what to do with roundabouts. You know what I mean? I used to come up the roundabouts trying to go left. You had to go right. Oh my God. We had a job getting out of the airport. I swear to God. I don't know how we done it. But anyways, into the fourth stage, like we hadn't even time to set the tire pressures. Like both of the wheels on, there's just wee service. The time controls are all over the place, like which is a lot of the reason as to why the whole times we end up making a total mess up with the times after the fourth stage. But at this stage, like Martin Wilson was sort of saying, like, you can forget about seeing these conditions, forget about times, all it is survival. All you need is get through it. And he was, I tell you what I done, had just about enough time, because when you're doing international timing, you can't like wait at the control. You can't clock in later. You have to be on time, and your time set for the day. So your time from stage start to stage start. It's not like Irish rallying where you get your finish time and you add on the road section.
27 minutes or whatever.
So it's complicated enough as it is, and then the whole thing's out of sync. So anyways, I got time to do tire pressure in front, so we were going with the front tire pressure set. There's only about 3 miles from where we put the wheels on, so there weren't, but like there was like 40 psi in them, but I dropped them down to 20. And the rears who went, I didn't have time to do the rears. Andrew said, we have to go up to the start of the stage, set off in the snow and ice. It's that stage actually. Loeb was doing it that year, 2015, and he set the fastest time. Remember, he came down the stage and he was saying, "Oh, completely stopped, waste of time, never." And then turned out he was like 20 something seconds quicker than OJ, and he's like, "Oh, no." And there's life in the old dog yet, sort of thing. If you watch that in car, that's what we had to drive in. You should watch it. Like, it's just you wouldn't believe it. Like. But anyways, set off anyways, and sure, this is my first time ever driving on studded tires, by the way, and. I don't know. Lucky enough with the good notes, like with the note system fairly well down, and the notes are perfect. And Andrew was on the ball. Everything was. Damien knew what he's doing, you see, and Andrew and him were working really well, and everything was 100%. They had a system like where the color depends, and Andrew would say red, yellow, or whatever, different colored. And once I heard red, come off. But anyways, what I realized was once you touched the throttle, especially that max engine, the car was just washing out. You had no traction, no steer, no nothing. Like, it was just, even with the studs. I was like, so this just is not working. Came to the first hairpin, and you just couldn't. Because like with the anti-lag coming on, you see the car just spin up the wheels, and you just no control of it. So I just said, this isn't working. I just turned off. I just put the car back in the road mode. I said, this is a waste of time. And it was probably the best thing I ever done. Like, next thing, we started catching cars. We were just driving up the road. Like, you only have, your no boating in cars, you only have like 40% throttle. Like, but I was even too much. And we were driving, like, I don't know why it came to me to do this, like, but we started coming up behind another JWRC. Like, we caught and passed the WRC Fiesta. He was sliding, he was up the road and up the bank and baiting her off the barriers. Started catching and passing some of the French boys. Your boy Johan Russell was doing it, and Quentin Gilbert. These boys coming up the hairpins. I could see, like, there's crowds everywhere. Like, just the place, and come to the hairpins is like daylight. And I could see these boys, like, just sitting spinning, and we're just going up past them, like, we must have caught and passed 5 or 6 cars, like, and we didn't know. So it just reminded me of a night navigation. To be honest with you, going up a field in a night navigation, pure chaos. And next thing came to this series of hairpins at the end of the stage, and of course I was getting a wee bit over exuberant on the handbrake, trying to carry as much speed as I could, and the back end was going away. Ended up getting into a half spin and jammed the car between a cliff face and a barrier. Had to do like forward and back 3 or 4 times. Lost about 15 seconds, I'd say. A lot of people don't know that actually. Come out to the end of the stage, got the time anyways, and sure, straight away, like, I said, right, need to go. next thing you have to meet Damien and Gary then to give you the gravel notes, the ice notes for the next one. And then I had said that Martin Wilson was at the end of the stage in fairness to him, and I said, I didn't get doing the tyre pressure. We've done the tyre pressure then. I said, do we need to switch them or not? He goes, no. He looked at the studs. They're all there, 100%. Next stage is the same conditions. We didn't check times. You didn't have time. We didn't know what was going on. Plus, you come to the end of them stages to write all the times on the board, you see, but even the WRC guys are all out of sequence. Latvala wasn't even running that far in front of us in the stage, it turned out, that sort of way, because they got delayed different times. It was just madness. So you couldn't even tell where you were anyways. And he was done the second stage. Was there 2 stages that night? And so I'd land up the start of the next stage anyways. And next thing, Andrew had done the time card up and checked everything with Damien. And next thing, the boys that we had finished, they were supposed to go ahead of us anyways. The car 26, the WRC Fiesta, these boys went in ahead of us again. I said, Andrew, there's a boy with the Fiesta. And he says, I don't know what's going on. So they were on the time goes from the stage starts. So even though you catch and pass from the stage, they still go ahead of you at the start next stage. And then we're sitting for 5 minutes. And I said, why are them boys, these boys were way into stage then. I said, why are they going to stage? And I was like, what the fuck's going on? I couldn't figure it out. And I said, it's not something about the timing. And Jesus, Andrew remembered then. He goes, go. So we raced up to the start and we were 14 minutes late. We're nearly OTL. We didn't even realise. Just a complete and utter disaster. Then we realised we made a complete balls of it. Done that stage anyways. And then at the start of that stage, it was dry. It was wet tarmac. So you're on the studs. So it was a bit of a nightmare. But you're coming out of the first couple of hairpins before you get onto the proper snow. But I remember it was real severe on the dry shafts and on the gearbox and everything. The amount of noise going through it. But as we got through that stage, that was complete carnage as well. There was yokes off the road everywhere. Again, as soon as I got to snow, I just put it in road mode and we were catching and passing cars and down. Came out to the end anyways. And this stage we knew we'd made a boo-boo with the times, but we had no idea how much penalty. And there was just 2 stages and back in the gap that night. And next thing, I think Andrew pulled out the phone, checked the results, and then he realised that we'd set the fastest time in JWRC, by I don't know how much faster we were. And we had a 15-second spin. It turned out if it hadn't had the spin, I think we would have been in the top 15. Hey, Breen was only a couple of seconds ahead of us, and he was in the R5 208. And oh man, I was absolutely devastated because I just thought this we were nowhere, And then it turned out, even with the problems we're having, we were still second fastest on the second stage. So without the time penalty, we would have been leading the JWRC after the first.
2 chases.
And then the realisation hit us then as to how much time penalty. So we were carrying 2 minutes and 40 seconds. The time penalties in the next day. But sure, the car was fine. We were basically on 2 stages in road mode. So the car. But I did notice that the gearbox and the dry shafts on the dry tarmac were taking a severe hammering, And then on the first stage on the Friday morning, same thing again. We sort of had to figure out what was going on. Andrew knew what was going on at the time, but I was like a bull. You can imagine the amount of effort we put in. Me and Andrew to speak that night. I was not very good now with him, to be honest. But anyways, got through it. Andrew says, he says, I don't know what's going on. He says, well, we've obviously got the knack for this, and a lot of the stage is going to be snow and ice. He says, if we carry on the way we're going here at the time and make mistakes, we can pull it back, and the bike's going to drop out. So I says, right. Out in the first stage, fastest again in the first stage. Same thing again, driving around the studs in road mode. I think the other guys just didn't figure out just to turn off stage mode. Honestly, that's what it was. They were fighting with the car constantly, and we were just driving like a road car. That's what it was, hey. And it's just simple common sense.
Well, you thought
that's the thing with common sense. Yeah. And then it was what was I going to say then? Yeah, but there was a section then too. I went from first gear to second gear out of a hairpin, snow and ice, and there was a patch of tarmac. And as I went to pull from, you're short shifting all the time to try and get the torque of the engine to get away out of the slow corner. But anyways, the wheels were spinning up against here, and I distinctly remembered just as I pulled second gear on the paddle, the wheels hit a patch of wet tar, and the gripped just as I was pulling the gear, and she went dog to dog in second gear, and she damaged the box. And I said, Andrew, Matt, they're doing something to the box. And I'd done a full season in them cars and never 1 ounce of trouble with them gearbox. And 3 of my gearbox are bulletproof. But anyways, and we got to the end of the stage and everyone was fine. We were still fast time. I just said, I made a comment to him anyways. And then we got to the stage, Gary and Damien were giving Andrew notes, and Gary was asking me, well, what do you think? He says, you're the fastest in there again. He said, Gary just couldn't believe this. He was he never drove on the opposite side of the road on Monday morning, and now here you are, or Sunday morning, and now we're here, setting top JWRC times. And I think we're 7th. So in one stage we'll jump to 5th, but then the next stage, then the gearbox started giving trouble. we lost fifth gear or something.
Right.
And I told Gary at the thing, I says, I think I done harm to the box. And I knew we didn't have a spare. And I says, ring into Martin, see what can be done. But we didn't know, was everything sealed? If you don't have your spare gearbox in the scrutineer and sealed with the FIA tag, like sure. I don't know who it was. Like Porrick Duffy was going to send for Citroen to send me out a brand new box, 10 grand box, and it was just trying to keep us in the rally. But you couldn't. There was no point because it wasn't in the rules. And so it was devastating. Yeah. And the problem was we carried on. Like got back in the service and drained the oil. Like your oil was full of gunk. And like Martin says, look, you have to look at this. The way we were looking at it was we were actually still able to set Midland times. And I was thinking if we can get to the end and get even anywhere in the top 10, you're getting points. Like and we'll come away with something. That's the way I was looking at it. The whole thing's lost. But try and keep the car on the road. Just drive around the road more. Like we were literally going around the road sections in 6th gear, like around. Like we were looking at the windows when we were coming to the junction, so that we wouldn't have to stop the momentum. Just to stop the gear change. Like this is the way your brain starts to work. You're just in survival mode. But anyways, got to the Friday night, and I think we were still 6th in the JWRC. There's still people behind us. Even we'd lost 4th gear then, so we'd 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 6th. So we lost 4th and 5th. So we were doing Monte Carlo with 4 gears. And anyways, Martin says, Daniel, the problem you have here is you're in the French Alps. If basically the gear breaks and locks up the whole gearbox, he says, and you slide off and you lose control of the car and you slide off, he says you're dead, man. It's not safe. You're out of control of the car. He says the wheels just lock up dead. He says this is what you're feeling. So and then we're going backwards and it was just devastating. We had to pull out of the rally. And we went to the COC and everything. We had a meeting with the COC to see is there anything you could do to bend the rules or anything else. We take a time penalty just to keep us in the rally or whatever. And he said he couldn't. Like you can't. It's black and white. So that was it. We had to pack up and go home. Disaster. But like still some experience. And I set fast times. Like I'd probably go down in folklore that we were setting fast time. But anyways.
Yeah. I think.
But we had done enough to prove to people to give us a chance. And end up going to Portugal. Portugal started out well, but. Again, got caught up behind slower cars in front of us, and they were having bother. We were actually having a good run, and I'd seen how rough the stages were getting, and same thing. This is common sense because the cars couldn't stick it. Like a lot of these young lads, you see, they probably don't have like I was. They don't have the mechanical ability. I was like 28 at this stage, so I had a bit more nonce. Like a lot of these lads were 19, 20. They're just flat.
They were the same as what you were.
A lot of times the fastest drivers probably actually don't win them championships. In all honesty, like which maybe sometimes why there's a bit of a flaw in the system. But anyways, we ended up getting caught. It was actually a French lady driver who was doing the championship, but she had lost gears or something as well. I think she broke the gearbox case, and it's the same thing. We had caught her on the stage before, but it is a national time, and the only way we could get ahead of her was she had to take a penalty. So Andrew went up and asked him, we're catching you, we were stuck in your dust, and I was just red missed the stage. So we were already stuck behind them on the stage. We lost. So we, unbeknownst to us, actually, with the guys dropping out, I think we'd actually momentarily moved into the lead after the first stage out of service on the Friday. Okay. We didn't even know it. And then we'd actually lost a lot of time with this last year. Or maybe Gilbert was the lead, and I can't remember. But anyways, the 5th stage then stuck behind this, or maybe it was the 6th stage, I don't know what it was. Caught her again. Like we had said based on safety ground. So the marshal actually gave us, based on safety grounds, he actually gave us 4 minutes to start the stage. But sure, we still had her caught. She only had like 1 gear or something. She was stuck on 3rd gear.
Right.
And she wouldn't go behind us, but sure, it was no difference. It would have been the same story but anyways, caught up behind her. But the problem was the dust was that bad, you couldn't even get close enough. She probably couldn't see, like she probably knew that we were going to catch. There was the language barrier as well. Yeah. And then I couldn't get close enough to her. And at that stage then I had started zoning out, wasn't listening to the notes. Next thing, one of the things was coming down this mountain in Portugal, like somewhere, and the dust was like you couldn't see. You couldn't see the bonnet clips, like The next thing, the dust disappeared. And then and all of sitting in front of me was a concrete wall and a pillar. And I just wasn't listening. It was a square right. And I wasn't listening to Andrew. Andrew said, the red mist, you weren't listening. Andrew said, you're not listening to me. And next thing we were off. And pulled I think I tried to fling around and put the front right wheel into the concrete culvert and broke all and shite. But anyways, we got it fixed up and got a super rallied and went out, and I don't know, we finished 5th or 6th, but sure, at that stage all hope was getting lost. But anyways, the guys rallied around us again to give us a shot in Finland. The hope was that we could try and have a go with Finland and maybe turn some heads. Tom Walsh was along with us at this stage. Tom was a big supporter of ours. He was obviously a Billy Coleman coordinator, but Tom had obviously a lot of experience with Billy Coleman and different guys, helping out different guys over the years, Sean Gallagher and these guys, and he knew what needed to be done. So we got Tom involved to step in, with all for the FIA side of things. Tom had been FIA delegate at multiple rallies because he was Tom the COC for Rally Ireland, actually.
He was, that's right, yeah.
So that's why he knew the lingo,
yeah.
and he had agreed to come out with us. Fair play to him. So he went to us for Portugal and Finland. But Tom was saying, you see the likes of Malcolm Wilson, he says, Tom's really fan of Malcolm Wilson. He says, if he sees someone that can go to Finland and set the times, he'd nearly take that more as a guy who'd win the JWRC championship. He'd give a guy a chance that way. That's what you have to think. Just so we went to Finland with that in mindset. And in fairness, we were on to Chris Meek and Paul Nagel and Derek Brannigan. These guys, they give us in-cars and recce DVDs and stuff. We're doing an awful lot of work on the notes. We realised that we had too much detail in our notes for the speed you were going at then with the stages. So I had to simplify the notes and landed out to Finland again. And everything was going great. We didn't have a great shakedown. The car wasn't going great. But again, Sharky, with his setup genius, he was able to get, because I'd never experienced road this before. I explained to him what was happening and ended up open out the rebound, and Meek had said this. He says, it's just because the car wants to leave the ground all the time, so you have to open out the rebound, you want the dampers to follow the road, But the thing about Finland is, you see, it suits British and Irish drivers because it's all crests, and we already have the crests. But a lot of the continental drivers don't have to deal with crests in Spain and France and Belgium. And they don't. And this is where they struggle for the first couple of years because they don't have the crest built into their notes. Left over crest, right over crest, and having the line. A lot of times you have to be turning the car before it, and that's what Finland's all about. We already have that built into our note system. You see, so that's why we can be instantly fast. Cronin and Fisher and Breen and all will tell you that. So the Irish guys always go well in Finland because we have the crests built into our system. But anyways, that's just a bit of nerdy stuff for you. Anyways, we were going well straight away. I think we were second fastest in the first stage behind by Henry Hapamäki or something, a real hot shoe from Finland. And going well, 2 or 3 stages in, and then in the hunt anyway, I think it was we were maybe third overall. Gilbert was second. He had done the rally 4 or 5 times at this stage, and Hapamäki was in the lead. He was in a league of his own. And we were well ahead of the rest of the crew, the rest of the gang of boys. And then went to that Olympia stage, obviously the big stage everyone talks about. But anyways, you've that hairpin, where Breen rolled the S2000 car.
Oh, yes.
In the hairpin. But just after that, then there's a real fast section after that. But the year we done it, it's still there now. They made a man-made jump. They basically cut a corner out to make it like a spectator zone. They put a big man-made jump, a real unnatural jump, it was far too steep, and you come down to crossroads and it's the narrow section out to the end of the stage. But anyways, that fast section, I came in too fast and couldn't get the car slowed up, so I had to go out onto the loose. When you're on them rallies, it's all about being on the line. That's what you hear. Once you go off the line, it's just like pure marbles. But lost the car on the brake and she got all crossed up. I hit the jump, fully locked to the left, and usually you have to. And then big jumps, you have to bounce the car off nose them off, keep the front of them in the air.
Higher, yes.
Nosing them into the ground. I didn't get doing that. And not only did the car land crossways, but she landed nose first. And what I thought had happened was it burst the radiator, cracked the radiator. First of all, I started getting water pressure up on the dash, lost water pressure. Put in the stage, road mode, and crawled out of the stage. And we had chemical metal stuff, we'd stuff to fix the car. You have to bring a fairly comprehensive spares package in comparison to the BRC, where it's like sprint events really in comparison. So you bring a lot of spares with you and tools and stuff. And I was keeping an eye on the temperature, sitting around 100 degrees, And Andrew was calling out the notes, and I said, if we just get to the end of the stage and stay, to get it fixed. That's what I was thinking, just thinking all the time. We're keeping the rally. But unbeknownst to me, what happened was it actually broke the whole bottom plastic shroud off the radiator completely, and immediately dumped all the water. And the temperature gauge was reading the ambient temperature of the air in the engine. Yes, there was no water in the engine at all, so it was 100-degree air temperature in the engine. And I was still saying water pressure, but the reason why I was saying water pressure because there's no water at all. I just thought it was losing water, and the engine was still fine. So the time we got to the stage stop car, the engine cut out, and it was completely cooked. We'd completely cooked the engine. And we got towed back in, and Bobby made an attempt to see what he could do with it, because obviously you can't change the engine, but the engine was complete. We've got a bore scope, we've got a bore scope of Orica. Sunan was actually doing the rally that time, but he wasn't doing the JWRC, and now he was well ahead of us now, in fairness. No point in saying we weren't matching him. He was in a different fucking league now, in fairness. But then at the same time, you end up wrecking the car, but he had proved the speed. That's the whole point I was trying to make there. He had proved the speed. He was in a DS3 and R3, same car as us, and he proved the speed. and then he got the opportunity with Wilson.
I started opening up the doors for him. Yep.
Yeah, that's how it started. You see, the Finnish guys back him, the fast guys. Like, it doesn't matter if he crashes, if he's got the speed, you can. If you can drive at 11 tenths, you can take him back to 10 tenths. That's
it's like you said there earlier. It's not always the guy that wins the championship. It's it doesn't always the fastest driver. And
Wilson always had a knack for that. I think for finding the unknown guy who had the speed, because obviously first of all he's going to be cheap, and secondly then you could mold him the way you wanted to, because you'd obviously be grateful for the opportunity. Now he probably hasn't done as well in latter years with that system, but it definitely works sometimes. But
that's for sure.
But anyways, that was it. We're out of Finland. The engine was destroyed, so the dream was finished at that stage. We can't say we didn't try. Jeez, it was painful. It was very, very, very painful. Like, and then what I realised as well, there was no enjoyment in it. Like, it was still called motorsport, but then at that stage, as Tom Walsh says, it's a cutthroat business. Like, being in WRC, it's not really a sport at that stage. It's a cutthroat business, and it's different world. Like, but I suppose that's where I ended up going to the next phase of our journey. I had my eyes open then as to maybe a potential job in the place, and I had the contacts. So.
Yeah, so you stepped away from competing. Well, you still done a few bits and pieces with DGM, the GT86, and the R5, and one thing and another. But as you said, the love of sitting in the car competing had kind of gone at that stage, hadn't it? And you got an opportunity.
Yeah, it's just you're having to take it that seriously. The crack was going out of it, like as the man says, So we had done the stuff with Brendan, and actually I said to Brendan, look, at myself and Aisling, we always wanted to go traveling. Like, we were actually on our way to Australia in 2011 that time, and when there was a couple of lads left my father to go to Australia, and he asked us to come back out of England, which we did, to help him out with the business. And I suppose if I hadn't done that, I never would have got doing what I'd done. But we always had that grow to go traveling. We were planning to travel our way to Australia, try and get jobs out there, because there was nothing happening here. We were both sitting here in Ireland with degrees and could not get work for love nor money. But anyways, so we always had that grow. And like, in fairness, Aisling had put up with me for 3 or 4 years of like where, everything was devoted to rallying, like, where it was intense. Like, so then we'd recognise this opportunity to try maybe where you could work, earn money and travel, like, and we had the contacts then in M Sport. So, but Brendan, we'd done the GT. So Brendan said, like, would you interested in doing the champ? And I said, well, I would be, yeah. Like, at the end of the day, that GT86 was and is the only free seat in Irish rallying at the time, and I was lucky enough to have it, and I wasn't going to give it up for anything, like, but when it came to maybe moving on to another stage of our lives, so basically got an interview over in M Sport through Tom Walsh and with Wilson no lot, and we're offered jobs. So. And I knew the 2017 scars were coming as well, and I was sort of excited about that from an engineering point of view and everything. And sure, Jesus Christ, we couldn't have timed it any better, to be told. I ended up being on the test team, actually, because I have a truck license and stuff, so that was very useful to M Sport. So that was the main reason why I got the job, because it's very hard to get truck drivers that actually will actually go and do a bit of manual labour away from it. Like, they just want to drive trucks. So. You're not a truck driver at all. Like, you're a mechanic with a truck driver's license. But it's very hard to get men that want to do the same thing, if you know what I mean. So that's why they always struggle. So once I had the truck license, sure, they were interested immediately, no matter about anything else. So, but yeah, I went on to the test team. So the first half of the year was just doing the pre-event testing. I think it was Otsburg and Eric Camilli was the first year. Okay. But then Tanik was also doing it, with the DMAC team. And Elfin that year he'd been back down to the R5. So, but like, it was still some education, like watching them guys testing, like the work that went into it, that whole year. And then obviously Tanik was starting to show speed, and Wilson was going to give him a chance. But Wilson Wilson had decided that he was going to give he had been sick of being, like, he hadn't won a rally since 2012, and he was sick of being the bridesmaid for so many years. So he said, right, we're going to make a proper attempt at this new generation of the car, and we're going to build the car around Tanak. And I didn't know if he had the second. So from like the June time, the car was already in the pipeline. But so I was heavily involved, not heavily involved, but I was there to help him out and everything else. But so for that 2017 car, like, that was some experience. Like, I was away in the truck in Europe on the test truck for 62 days at one stage, where we done France, Spain, Sweden, Poland, back to France, maybe a few more, done tests all over.
Yeah.
That was basically, you're basically testing the car to destruction. This was the R&D development of the car before the car went for homologation.
Yes.
The homologation process probably started in November, but you needed to be sure that what you were going to homologate was going to be what you wanted for the next season and for the next couple of years nearly.
Yes.
So some experience to go through it, And then, at the end of that year, then everything was going great. It looked like Tanak was going to get the drive, Elfyn was going to get the drive. I don't know who's going to be the third driver, but whatever. And the next thing, the Volkswagen scandal happened, and Ogier was on the market then. And the rumours started flying around. But I'll never forget, so obviously Volkswagen pulled out, so Ogier needed a seat. And there was all these rumours going around, but we ended up, the car was fairly well sorted at this stage. So I think Ogier had tested the Toyota the week before up in Monte Carlo somewhere, and they weren't ready for him, you see. But we were. And we went down to Walters Arena and done 2 days testing in Walters Arena with Tanak. So Tanak got the whole car set up perfectly, and we put an awful lot of effort in, all the top engineers come down for the whole 2 or 3 days. Ogier came out then for the day, Ogier and Gracia, and immediately you could just tell the difference. The professional, it was just different level, and I was talking about different level we were used to.
Yes.
Tanak and all these boys, and them boys are, they know what they're at.
Yes.
Ogier and Gracia. I tell you the secret to that. I said this to people. The secret to that whole team is in Gracia.
Right.
He is. Ogier is obviously doing the driving, he's probably the brains man, but see the organisation and the level of detail that man goes into, immediately, them boys were already thinking about, they have, Gracia wants more controls on the footrest, so that, for instance, and so that he can turn off anti-lag, so if they stall a car or anything out there, Ogier doesn't have to worry about, he can, anti-lag's off, start the car and back on going, stuff like that there. It's unreal level of detail, and they hadn't even signed on. This is just saying, if we were to come here, this is what has to happen. So anyways, they were suitably impressed by the car, and then we were already up in Sweden doing winter testing, where you had to check all the components. We were doing Sweden, this is in December, -16 way up in the middle of way up in Cal, up in the middle of Sweden. There's some experience being up there. It's so mad when you're up there, but we're up there for a 4-day test. I think we had a day with Elfyn, a day with Ogier, a day with Tanak, or maybe 2 days with Tanak, and then the word came through. Ogier signed the deal, and then he flew straight up. So he done 2 days with us then. So he was the same driver. There's only maybe about 12 of us out of this test, and here we were with Ogier up in the middle of Sweden, and nobody else in the world even knew this stage that we hadn't signed. And here we were testing with what was he that time? The 5-time world champion. And then I got moved on to the events. Me and Aisling then, because Aisling she was working in the engineer's office, as a sort of an assistant to one of the top engineers. And then she'll go to the events and do help with the hospitality side of things. And then the following year, then she ended up looking after the drivers. So you have the front house and the back house where you look after the drivers and the staff. So she ended up, her role was looking after all the drivers, when they come in, doing all the whatever food and stuff they wanted and organize stuff for them.
Yes.
Now they would have the guy called Mick the chef. He does all of their meals and all that stuff, and does all their nutrition and all that kind of stuff and looks after them. But Aisling was anything they'd want, Aisling be there to look after them and stuff. And then I was working on the team, so we drive to the events, do the setup of the service park, and then I was working on the R5 cars, but it was unreal, to start into the 2017 championship, and I think we had first, was it 1-2 in the first rally? Obviously, it was first rally win for M Sport in a long time, and there was some timing for us to do it,
unbelievable. Just
won the 2 years he was there, we were there, and he won everything was won the first year, the manufacturers and the drivers.
And then the next year, then GB that year, Elfyn won the rally.
Elfyn won the rally.
Tanak then crossed the line. He won the manufacturers championship.
Yeah, he was third. Yeah, I think he was third overall. And then Ogier had to finish to win the. He won the drivers. Yeah. Oh, Jesus.
That was fairy tale stuff, wasn't it?
It was brilliant, and it's surreal to be part of it, it was really surreal. And just to be working with the likes of the caliber of the people, it was unbelievable, when you look back on it. And then obviously went on the next year. What did Tanak move on at that stage, did he?
Yeah, he went to Toyota then, didn't he?
Yeah, he could have went to Toyota then, So then it was Ogier, Elfyn. Yeah. And then the manufacturer was a bit more difficult that year, but Tanak or Ogier was still in the world of his own, or class of his own, but it was serious. I could tell stories all night about some of the stuff,
But as you say, the wee things like that, like the buttons and the and the footrest, that just shows the level of them guys is that they're thinking away ahead like that. It's unbelievable.
Ogier, even Wilson, I heard Wilson saying it a few times, like the amount of different days he had like through the doors in the place, like all multiple champions and everything else. And he just said OJ is different level, like, you know, best he ever seen by a long shot, like, you know, and I know there's all these rumours now about Loeb coming in, but I don't know if Loeb will go into the detail. And like them boys came to the workshop then after we came back from that Sweden test for Monte Carlo, they spent 3 or 4 days in the workshop. You never see any of the rest of the guys do that, like, and they went through the whole car, you know. They had pulled out the whole front dampers, whole front corners. Didn't like remember that time in Turkey. I know we ended up putting the car off the road, but they got the car repaired and still set the fastest time in Turkey in 2018. Like
True.
And that's you know to get that stuff back together and it all bent. Like that stuff's made to be precise, millimeter perfect stuff. Like you can't get the bolts in if it's not straight, but they managed to do it. But they spent 2 or 3 days just like stripping and rebuilding cars like with the guys in the workshop. It's unbelievable. Like, there's no one else was doing that.
No, like you know everybody says a bit low. But like the fact that OJ has done it in different makes of cars and done it, you know, in cars that probably shouldn't have been doing it. Like M Sport, their budget was probably a fraction of what Toyota Hyundai and then guys were spending, wasn't it? You know.
Oh geez, I must have a story now. I must tell you. So we went to Monte Carlo that time, and obviously you're watching the ceremony to start before they went into their 4 stages on the screen stuff in the service area and Gap, and then like. The boys, like I wasn't involved in the building of the cars, I was involved in the test team, so I knew the ins and outs of the WRC, but there was guys there who had like basically worked morning, noon and night for about a full month, you know, to get them cars finished. You know, you had Irish guys there, like Adam Platt was there, he was running Elfin's car. There's another guy called Shane Gaisley from Tipperary, he was at M Sport for a couple of years, he does a bit of work, Tom Gahan now. And there's other guys, like great team of guys, like, you know, you have 4 sort of guys assigned each car, like, and but like I remember, like these guys put blood, sweat, and tears into these cars, and like these cars that at that time when them cars were built, they were estimated supposedly worth about 600,000 euros, like a piece, like you know these cars. But anyways, OJ was sponsored by Richard Milley, you know the watchmaker. You see all the Formula 1 drivers. So anyways, he had the contract anyways that he had to wear the watch whenever he was on the ramp stuff. So obviously the casino, Royal Casino in Monte Carlo. So it turned out then the watch that OJ was wearing was worth $750,000. So it's actually worth more than the car. So some of the boys were told this and they were disgusted. But spent a full month like working this car to get OJ for the rally. And then he had to earn a watch that was worth more. Supposedly, I don't know if it's right or not, but it's just madness. Like anyways, I've done 3 years with M Sport and good times, made great friends. Self and Ashton got married in December there. Or December in October 2018, got a bit homesick, and we were back home then in December 2018, and we're living up in Donegal town here now. Happy out.
But there's a strong rumor going about that you're being punted back.
Yeah, well that's it. I suppose I got a wee bit of a grow back. Andrew and Adrian Heatherton was doing the RSC in 2019, and a lot of the rallies based up around Carlisle, close to where I was, and I was just so happened I was home for that week or whatever and give them a hand, you know. But I remember up around some of the Scottish, up around Dumfries or Galloway stages up there somewhere, and we were doing the chase, and you know, that some rally, that's unreal, like, you know, that RSE rally, you know, and BD escorts. But anyways, you had McCormick and Pritchard and you know, all the top boys, Chilman and Adrian was in the mix there, top 5 or 6, and you're able to be able to at the end of the stage and check them out, change tires, and then you're able to go and watch a stage and then meet them then. But it was dark on the, I don't know what night it was now, it must have been the Friday night, and you could hear them off the start line coming in the dark, you know, like it's just like back to the 70s and 80s, like the heyday. And like I was just like, Jesus, this is the job. Like I could have took my left rally in at that stage, like, you know, because I was sick looking at rally cars, to be honest with you. But sorry, that was 2017. That was 2017. 17. That was the first time I had done it. And I started sort of like that winter. Then I come home from Christmas and I stripped the escort. The escort was laying in the shed, and she hadn't done. I'd rented out a few times to try and cover some of the bills that were to get the engine replaced in the Citroen before we sold it and stuff. And that was ended up being a total handling there for a couple of years. But anyways, so like on the strength of just that RSE, I stripped the car, and then she was sitting at the bare shell. And then she sat then for another year before I got back to it again. But it was all because of I was like, that is the way to go. Like now, just back to the escort, out for a bit of crack. Like I don't want to be taken seriously anymore. But anyways, since that moment in end of 2017, we're finally getting to the point now where nearly 4 years later with COVID and everything else. So yeah, she's not far away, and it just so happened then that the Donegal Harvest Rally, or if you want to call it the Harvest, whatever it's called this year, the mini stages or whatever you want to call it, is going to be in Donegal town here. So I decided to make myself and Bobby. I'm putting Bobby Sharkey through
the ringer again.
live in hell. As Bobby says, if this is your dream, I wouldn't like to see your nightmare. Because he says I can't stick this much longer. So I have Sharky tormented there the last couple of weeks. But yeah, we're going to give it a go. Still a lot of stuff has to happen. We've decided to put a couple of new gizmos on the car. With Raymond Moore, we're trying out a new 3MO gearbox, and we're trying out a new XAP electric actuator, and we're trying new brakes with Raymond Moore as well, new AP brakes. Basically, R5 Fiesta brakes are getting put onto it. And we're going to try out a set of these Olin's dampers with Philip Case and stuff as well. So a lot of development stuff, which just means there's more headaches, unfortunately. We're in the final throes of it here now. We have Kieran Rush wiring the car at the minute, and we're trying to get overlaying. But the rally's in less than 2 weeks' time, and the rally's this day 2 weeks, I should say now.
Yes.
The wiring loom starts to go into the
But the sound of your career, you've never done things the simple way, have you ever? So
no, and I promised myself I wouldn't do it that way. I promised myself it wouldn't be last minute. Just do it when the car is ready. But the way it was working out, the car was sitting up in Bobby's, and then COVID came, and there's no panic and money and everything else. But I just said, if we don't pick a date or a goal, it'll never be done. It'll just be one of these things. It'll be there 10 years later, and Shark could be saying, when are you going to take this yoke out of my way? You know. So
the rally's in your doorstep now. It's kind of
just logistically and everything else. So I haven't competed in 6 years. I haven't done a rally since the last car I drove was the GT86 in Fastnet Rally, whenever that was in 2015. So I haven't competed. I drove. Luckily, I got the chance to drive a few cars over in M Sport, just shaking them down and stuff when they were stuck more than anything. You know. I kept joking with the guys. I'm a fully paid works driver with M Sport now. The only thing is I'm driving a Mercedes Actros and not a WRC car, but not too many boys can say it.
Yes, you really should dream.
That's it. So yeah, we're going to try and get ready for the harvest now and have a bit of crack again. Just to go back and have a bit of crack. We'll only be able to do a few events a year like we were doing, you know. And I suppose we've been there and done that, and just want to try and have a bit of crack in the Escort, you know. That's what it's all about now.
Yeah. So Daniel, to wrap it up, I suppose, like, you know, the career you've had, like the amount of people that you spoke about there through the night, it's that rally community once again rallied around and took you like to Monte Carlo, took you to, you know, the BRC. Unbelievable. You have some great people around you.
Yeah, look at I know I don't want to list the names, but I know rightly I forget somebody, and I don't think it's the time the place start going through names individually. It's not like but all I can say, those people probably know who they are, and you know, there's still a lot of them are still helping us out now with this project. But yeah, all I can say is just thanks very much to them. Like we always had the dream, like, and I suppose we give it a shot. As I said, we'd rather regret trying it than regret not trying at all, which is what we've done. Look, I think we've done as much as we could what we had, and I've no regrets. No regrets. No. You know, I could be sitting here and saying I've plenty of regrets, which, you know, with bad luck, you need good luck, and but ultimately we had no regrets, and you know, very thankful for the way it went.
Yeah, like there's not many other drivers sitting in your position that has won, you know, Donegal National, you know, 2 times or whatever, you know, won the BRC, you know, set top times in Monte Carlo. Like that's, you know, it's, you know, when you look back and take stock of it, what a career you've had, really.
Yeah, that's it. I suppose that since you sort of come up with the idea of doing this, and you start going through your results and whatever, you probably you take it for a bit for granted, like, you know. But yeah, but even the time in M Sport, like, you know, I never even would have got that opportunity without that as well. You know, it's amazing. That's something that, you know, Ashley was involved with as well. Like, that's something that we can hopefully tell our grandchildren in years to come, that we're part of a world championship winning team. And but yeah, I must say, like, internally grateful first and foremost to my family, to Aisling and the likes of Andrew and Arthur Cairns, and you know, the other guys who navigated for me, and the team around us. So a couple of special mentions. I know I mentioned Bobby Sharkey a few times, but Fintan McGorman as well. And Damien Hagan heavily involved with us all through the years, Andy Mackerel as well. These guys, you know, they were sort of the backbone. They were there for us whenever we needed help, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then that Team Daniel thing that we sort of set up, you know, there was an extended team there. Probably too many people to mention. I mentioned a few of them all right, but just eternally grateful to them people. And honestly, we wouldn't have got doing it without their support, because you can't do it on your own, like, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe if you're a multimillionaire, but we certainly weren't multimillionaires. So I must say, these guys made up for the millions that were missing and more, and then some. So
and
very
you probably would have half the story if you had millions either, you know. So.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Different stories, maybe, but maybe not as good.
Not as good. So
Yeah.
Daniel, once again, really appreciate you taking the time. I thoroughly enjoyed that. It was a fantastic story.
Thanks very much, Kevin. Keep up the good work. Chat to you soon.